Good evening. I'm Gil.
And I'm Nelda.
And we're Calgary Dwelling Consultants with Maxwell Southstar Realty.
And our business finds quality tenants for residential property owners.
We do both property management and we just find tenants for people who want to manage the properties themselves. Today we are going to talk about move-in and move-out reports. They are very important. Why are they important?
Because you're hooped if you don't have them. If you ever want to do anything with, let's say you want to contest something that your tenant said. So if they moved out and you said, look, that picture window wasn't broken when you moved in, and they said, oh, sure it was. If you haven't documented that on a move-in report that you and they signed and it's dated and it has your address on it, you're hooped.
You're toast.
Yeah.
In fact, move-in reports should be accompanied by pictures. That gives an additional level of proof that things are the way they said they were.
Yeah, we have a realtor client who's very clever, and one thing that she did was when we did the move-in report, she took pictures of everything, and then she put 6 or 8 pictures on each page, and then she had a little signature, so both of them could sign off on it. And then that accompanied the move-in inspection report.
So we have a little piece of paper over here. I'm just going to grab it, and it tells us what exactly needs to be on a move-in inspection. Move-in, or on an inspection report, that's what they call it. First, the date the inspection was done, and the signatures and names of those present. Then a statement signed by the tenants if they agree with the results of the inspection, or a statement signed by the tenant that they disagree with the results of the inspection, or a statement signed by the landlord indicating that the tenant refused to sign the tenant statement if the tenant refuses to sign the inspection report. Did that make sense? It sounded a little confusing. Then we'll do it again. A statement signed by the landlord indicating that the tenant refused to sign the tenant's statement if the tenant refuses to sign the inspection report.
So let's say you've done the move-in inspection report. In an ideal scenario, there might have been some things that the tenant agrees that need to be fixed, and you agree that they need to be fixed, and it was a tenant's issue, and so you sign it and they sign it. So they agree and you're all good.
Right.
However, you might have found that there's a damaged picture window, going back to the picture window again. And they said, no, I don't agree with you. That window was damaged when you moved in here. And you say, it wasn't. I've got a picture that shows that it was in good shape. Then they sign that they disagreed with your inspection. Or if they refuse to sign anything at all, then the landlord can sign on their behalf.
Well, on his behalf.
On his behalf.
Or her behalf.
Or we can sign on their behalf.
Right.
As property managers. And sometimes you do have people who refuse to sign the lease. Or not the lease, the move-in inspection.
Or a statement to be signed by the landlord indicating that the inspection was done without the tenant because their tenant refused to show up.
Yeah, and I've had those before too. You give people 2-3 notices, you call them, you email them, and they just don't show up for the move-in inspection. So you have to notate that as well.
Okay, so when do we have to do the inspection?
Move-in inspection has to be done within a week after, a week after they moved in. 7 days. Just a little tip here, it's much easier to do a move-in inspection when there's no furniture or anything in the place. When you're trying to do a move-in inspection afterwards, and there's stuff all over the place, forget it.
And the closer you get to the move-in date, like we typically will do the move-in inspection when the person actually is moving in. Because once they start moving furniture in, they might be doing some damage, and of course you don't have any record of that, so there's not a darn thing you can do.
Yeah.
Just a few little tips.
Most people know this, and most people are really good. And even if people have done some things to the property, most of the time, I mean, in my years of being a landlord, most of the time they're fine with it. Or sometimes you as a landlord can let some things go. You can say, look, you've been a really good tenant for 5 years. I've made $120,000 in rent from you. Yeah, I'm not going to charge you for this. If you think it's important and you think that you should charge them for it, well, then you have to document it and stand your ground.
And you cannot charge for normal wear and tear.
We went over wear and tear in another video because that one's a real kind of a gray area for a lot of people.
Yeah, people don't understand what wear and tear is. And so, yeah, know the difference, or at least try to know the difference. In the end, it could come down to the residential tenancy dispute office having to make that decision for you. So one person might say, that's normal wear and tear. person might say burn marks on the floor are not normal wear and tear.
Yeah.
So,
When I lived in a housing cooperative in downtown Edmonton, and one point I did a move out inspection, and one woman had ripped all the door frames off the doors, and she had split the doors. I've never seen that ever before. And she said, "Oh, that's just normal wear and tear." And there were two of us doing the inspection. We just looked at each other like, I said, "That's nothing I've ever seen before. I've seen a lot of move outs and nothing like this." So, yeah, needless to say, she didn't get her money back.
Anyway, we're going to go over our move-in, move-out inspection report so you can have a look at one. And then we'll come back and say goodbye. So, talk to you in just a second.
So here's a copy of our actual landlord-tenant move-in, move-out report, just like it says on the top. And what you have to have on the top is you've got to have the landlord's or the agent's name. You need to have their address and the city that they live in. Then you need to have the tenant's name, their full legal name, the property address. So this is the address that they're going to be moving into, and the city of the property address. Now when you get to the actual move-in report, I'm not going to go through each of these items because that would be an absolute cure for insomnia if there ever was one. But basically what you want to do is you want to write the condition when they move in. So if the condition is good, if it's poor, if it needs repair, you need to write that in here. And then if it needs repair, it's always a good idea to take a picture of it and put that in a Dropbox file or put it in a file somewhere where you have access to it, or put it on a sheet of paper where you've got 4 to 6 different photos of each of the items that are in need of repair or have some damage to them that you're not going to repair. You go through each of the rooms and list the condition, and that includes the balcony and or a porch outside or a deck or a kitchen. Laundry rooms count, so do the closets, bedrooms. Bathrooms. And the garage. Yes, you do need to mention the garage and or any sheds that you have. So here we've got a little spot for sheds. Then when you're done the entire report, if there's anything unusual that you want to list that you think should be noteworthy, definitely put it in under comments. And then you come into the move-in statement. So this is the statement that needs to be signed. And over here you're going to have the inspection of the premises was conducted on this date, and by the name you need to put your landlord's name and the tenant's name in, and then you need to sign it. And this is if they agree to the condition of the inspection. And then you've got all these different categories too, where they disagree, or maybe they're not present. And all of those should be listed here. And so once they've signed it and dated it, and you've signed and dated it, and you've chosen a category, you're good to go. Then you save a copy, keep it in your files. One goes to the actual property owner, and one of them goes to the tenant. The tenants must have a copy of this, and it must be sent within, I believe, 7 days of the report. But I recommend sending it as soon as possible. As soon as you get it back to the office and you've got everything listed in your share drive or wherever you store it, then send it out to them right away and keep a copy of that so that you know that you sent it to them. And that's it. We hope you found that move-in, move-out report useful.
I expect you found it more interesting listening to Nelda than you found it listening to me talking about leases.
You're plenty interesting.
Oh. Okay, so anything else we want to wrap up with on move-in, move-out inspections? We've said how important they are. We've said you have to do them in a timely fashion. CRRA actually has a good move-in, move-out form if you want to get one that's been pre-done by somebody else. We talk about CRRA quite a bit in our videos, but that's because it's actually a really good and valuable company.
They do excellent forms, excellent work.
You can do it yourself, but you might miss something, as we've said about the leases. The one that you've seen is one that was sort of modified. So anyway, it's something to think about. But remember, do not forget your move-in and move-out reports, because that is what's going to get you money when people do the wrong thing.
I concur.
Okay. And on that note,
have a great weekend.
And we will talk to you next week. Again, if you have any questions, send them on up. If you want us to cover something different, that's fine. And we're always here.
Yeah, we always get some, well, not always, but frequently get some very good questions. And those are really appreciated.
Yeah, we like them because they make us think. Okay, thank you. Get ready for our banner. Bye for now.